veins, I've been driving this train. Years in this lane, there's no stopping this flame. Cause I came to the game and I changed it to play how I like, rearranged it to my own domain. Yeah, I got what it takes, made lots of mistakes, taking shots, skipping breaks, feeling lost, feeling great, popping off, singing straight, never stopped, never changed. All the squad here to play, and I've got something to say, yeah. I work hard each and every day, I get lost in the words I say. I don't push pause, no, I push play. I won't stop till I make a change. I withdraw on the things I make. I turn flaws into flawless traits. I build tall, never capping space. I won't stop till I hear him say,
hey, welcome back. Welcome back to Put a Ring on It, Season 4, Episode 7, guys. We're back. What's going on?
We're back for some more fire, because last week's recap that we did was explosive. It was fire. It was lit. So I think this one gonna be just as lit.
I think so too. I'm telling you, I believe it. I believe it. So how you been doing today? How's everybody?
Everybody's good. I see Roro's in the house, and my family's good. Grandkids good, daughter's good. Weather was nice today, but it's not going to hit. It's not going to hit 70 this week, though. It may get 68, 69, maybe. But but the week prior we had a few 80-degree days, so it kind of dropped significantly. But it's still nice, though.
Yeah, it sounds like it. It sounds like it. That's good to hear. That's good to hear. Yep. Well, here it's decided that it wants to go back into winter, so we're basically in the 40s. So I'm not going to even brag about that. But hey, what can you say? What can you say?
We had a tornado come through Virginia Beach on Sunday, right after the music festival ended. It was interesting.
What music festival?
Well, Pharrell does Something in the Water. It's called that for a weekend every April. He does it for the weekend in every April. And the last 2 years, of course, it was canceled because of C-19 and some other stuff. But he brought it back this year. It was some rain off and on. It was still very successful, but it ended on Sunday. And right after it ended early because of rain. But right after it ended, tornadoes came through Virginia Beach, because it takes place on the Virginia Beach oceanfront, down by the boardwalk and the beach and everything.
Oh, wow. Okay. Wow. I didn't know that. Is he from there? Is he from that area? Because, my daughter was stationed down in Virginia Beach.
Yeah, Pharrell's from here. Missy Elliott. A lot of greats come from this area.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it's his way of paying homage to his hometown and bringing the festival here.
Yeah, 2 of our 18 members at least are in the building. Hey, Mocha Mima. And Mocha Mima, you guys go over also lit. You guys go over and check out our finale recap of Seeking Brother Husband. That was good. That was really juicy. And check out a couple of shorts that I have from the castmates that are on Seeking Brother Husband. I've got some shorts that are out on my channel for that. And go check out, of course, go subscribe and check out Mocha Mima, because she has started a brand new channel. And if you guys have been around the YouTube streets, you know that Mocha Mima is one of the highest rated commentators on the YouTube streets in this genre, right?
Yeah. And Mocha Mima has a good taste in music as well. I love when she do her shorts, the music that she used, because it's like real old school. I'll be getting that feel, kind of take me back a little bit. Yeah.
Kind of take you back, huh? All right. Yeah, she does. She knows how to do that too. She really does. That's a very important thing. But let's go ahead and get started with this awaited recap. So as we open, we see that Dr. Stacy and all the couples are gathered in the therapy space, and Dr. Stacy is saying to Ricky that this process is not about him suppressing his feelings. Ricky says that, but men are conditioned to not express themselves, and he says that he's going to work on that. What did you think? What did you think of that?
Well, I think he's conditioned himself to shut down. He's even said in this episode that he kind of does that to protect himself, and he also alluded to the fact that when he gets elevated, Catherine gets more elevated. I think she gets angrier than he gets, and so and when he reaches that level, he gets afraid. I don't think he wants to say that, but I think he gets afraid.
Oh, you think, well, when you say afraid, do you mean like of what she might do, what he might do, of what the, or what or of what they both might do? What do you think he's afraid of?
I think he's afraid of what she might do, and then afraid of what he may do in retaliation. But I think when it elevates, she gets so angry that she would be the instigator if it ever got physical.
Mm. And we're going to talk about this a little bit later coming up because this is the episode where we have the family involvement. And I'm thinking that Kat, when she was growing up, I'm thinking she did see some things.
Yeah, apparently so.
Yeah, I'm thinking she did
Yeah,
see some things. So
and and,
definitely.
and and it's clear she has daddy issues. Very clear.
Well, yeah, I was thinking, and this is so funny how art and life actually cross and imitate each other or parallel, or differ even. Like I was thinking, it was so interesting growing up. So I'm adopted, and I didn't meet my biological family till in my 30s. But it's so interesting to me to hear people who didn't meet their biological parents until their teens and their 20s. Like, you think of Kat, she didn't meet her father till 14. I think on another show we cover on Married at First Sight, the gentleman, he didn't meet his father till he was ready to go off to college at 17, 18. And for me, like people say, your real parents, your real mom, your real dad. And I always tell people all the time, my real mom and my real dad raised me. Like,
Yeah.
let there be no mistake. Like, my real mom and my real dad raised me. Now, the people I met in my 30s, those were my biological parents,
hmm
but not
Yeah.
my quote unquote real parents. Because real parents are the people that put the time and pour the energy into you while you're still growing and developing, in my opinion.
hmm And that's why people say as you get older and mature, and you start to pick and choose friends, a lot of your friends become more important to you than family because you chose them to be in your life. A lot of times, family, you have no choice who's here when you get here. They're here when you get here for the most part, or you have no control over that situation. So people figure just because you're blood related and family, you have to love them, which is not always the case. But when you choose to select your friends, that's powerful.
That is. That really is. That really is. And so we also find out as we go back to the show because we get carried away here, but people love that though. They're really enjoying these little side ventures that we're taking off on this. We found that out. But we find out that Kat wants a third date with Marcus, of course, and I don't blame her not one little bit because I wouldn't mind a date with Marcus, my doggone self.
She
But
better, she better
Ricky,
calm herself down.
ah, don't you don't you get excited because the woman is excited. She had the right to be excited. Thank you very much. Um,
Whatever.
and Ricky decided that he doesn't want another date with Sheila. I guess that's
Mhm.
kind of went south for him. So he said he's learned everything he needs to know from her. So he's ready to move on. And we find out that Jasha, this is very interesting also. Jasha says that Brittany seemed to be doing a little bit too much. She was putting on, and he really didn't like that. It was almost as if she was doing all of this to compete with his woman, and I think that's where she lost him. What did you think about that?
Yeah, I think for him, it was coming across as disrespectful to Joya, and he didn't like that. So he said, she's doing a little bit too much to the point in his mind where she was disrespecting Joya, and he didn't appreciate that because when they walked in, he had his hands on her waist, and she wanted to twerk in front of him and all kind of stuff while she's sitting there looking at this, and she didn't have to do all that. So he felt it was disrespectful.
Yeah, yeah, and I don't know. It was weird. It was just weird. Like I think she did get to like a hen pecking contest with his woman. So.
Mm. But he did open up to her, Brittany, a little bit in their discussions. So I think maybe he don't want a second date because maybe he feels as though Brittany may feel a little bit more threatened, and he don't want to rock the boat a little bit. You know what I mean?
Oh, so you think I don't know. I don't see Jasha being that way. I think Jasha, he's not been moved by this whole process, but we're going to get to that a little bit later. But he hasn't been moved by this whole process, and I think he really genuinely didn't like what Brittany did. That's just my take on it. So I don't know. Joya says that Jacoby thinks that he's a high value Kevin Samuels kind of guy, and he doesn't like women with children. He doesn't want to deal with them. So, of course, he will not be getting a date. Absolutely not.
Yeah, I mean, he comes across as an a-hole, but at the
Mm-hmm.
same but at the same time, you gotta appreciate his brutal honesty. You know, he's just honest. And you
Mm-hmm.
have to appreciate that.
Right, you do, I agree with you. I'm gonna say so. Jasmine says that she felt compared to Zay's date the entire time when the date was in their home. Zay says, no, you shouldn't feel like that. But once again, Dr. Stacy says that that's her perspective and she's entitled to it. So, Zay is always seeming like he's never really understanding where his woman is emotionally. Is that normal for a guy to just really not get it? Is that normal, in your
Well,
opinion?
well, women's feelings are always so much all over the place. Sometimes it's hard for a man to gauge that.
Oh my
You
God.
know,
I don't
we
know
just
why.
don't. We sometimes we can't gauge it. You guys sometimes all over the place. So it's like, okay, what is she
Mm,
feeling today? What is she feeling an hour from now? What is she feeling 5 hours from now? It's always something different, and it takes time to kind of gauge that. I think Jasmine got offended when he couldn't take his eyes off the woman right in her house. Okay, but she's an attractive lady. They going on a date. What is he not supposed to look at her?
you know what? I just think, you're you and you're gonna be you, but I think until the tables are turned and you see how that feels, I think you're going to stay in that same place of playing like you don't understand what it is, right? So it's not that people don't expect you to see that other people are beautiful, just like women see that other men are handsome and all of that. But there is a way to conduct yourself. So now, if a person wants to conduct themselves without any boundaries, then they should expect to get what they get.
Aubrey, he wasn't looking her up and down with his mouth salivating. He was just looking at the woman. I
He
mean,
said he said comments though. It wasn't just him looking. He said certain comments that made his woman feel uncomfortable.
yeah, he said she's
Uh,
beautiful.
it's J Dub says honesty without compassion is brutality, and that's
Yeah,
exactly right. So
yeah.
again, it's unfair for you as an intelligent man to presume or to act like you are unintelligent. Because if you were unintelligent, then I would just excuse you for being stupid. Okay, but you are an intelligent man, and for you to sit up and say, well, are we not supposed to look? Are we not supposed to this, that, and the third? No, there is a balance, sir. There is a balance that needs to be met. And just like last week, when you wanted to talk about Catherine not doing enough and not stopping her date, same way with this gentleman, he could stop himself. Okay, it's himself. Have
Well,
some self. It's called self control.
well, first of all, I'm a very high IQ individual, as you know, and just to my point, and just to my point, here you and your feelings right now about this thing. I'm telling you how men feel when dealing with women and their feelings. If you don't want to hear it, you don't want to hear it, but that's the fact. Okay, you guys feeling something different every other hour, every other day.
No, 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 no,
You
no,
know,
no, no. See, now, sir, you're getting off into something totally different. You are trying to say that women are all over the place. I'm not buying that. We're gonna move on. That's not what we're talking about. We were simply talking about a Zay who had a reaction, and instead of having some self-control and some decorum, he chose not to. Now, had that been his woman and had she been touching all over her date, you would have been the first one to say, well, she's not accountable. Why is she rubbing on her date's chest because he's got great pecs and this and that and the other thing? See,
he
you're
didn't,
being
he didn't
you're
touch the
being
woman.
you're being disingenuous.
He didn't touch
Exactly.
the woman.
J Dub, exactly. Use some tech. I didn't say he touched her. I use that as an example. I never said he touched her. Come on now. Stick with the program
You
here.
just
Stick
said
with what I'm
that.
saying. No, I said the woman. I said I used the example of her. I said if she were touching all over her date and saying, "Oh, your pecs and oh, you must really work out. Look at you. You do 2,000 push-ups a day, sir. You just look so sexy." you know, you're trying to take my words and twist them. That's not really gonna work. Okay? It's not gonna work. No, it's not. I know you too well, sir. So it's not a thing because you're trying to say women are all over the place. But I'm saying to you that she has a right to feel the way she feels. If a woman comes into her home and he's oogling her and saying things, not just only looking, but saying things, and you don't want to admit that because, of course, you are back on that Ron kick that men are never wrong. They have no accountability, and that's where you like to stay right there on that fence.
Don't compare me to Ron. We're not the same person.
I don't know. I think you might be first cousins. Who knows? Let's see what our people in the chat are saying, and forget about you. Let's get back to, because J Dub always has. He's a #1 commentator, so I need to go back and catch a couple of his. So I like this one. I read this. I'm going to read this again for you. Honesty without compassion is brutality.
And we're talking about Jacoby. That's what he's talking about.
Would this season be better if one of the couples cheated on their significant other? After all, true love should conquer. Where's Hush? I'm not gonna pay you any attention. You're as bad as this one right here. I think you two are in the same boat. Now here's a good one. You go ahead. You can read this one. This is a very good observation that J Dub has. Would you read that?
All right. Jason is dragging Joya into her unfertile 40s. Oh Lord.
Yeah, that's what it does seem like, doesn't it? I definitely get that strong vibe. Exactly.
Is he dragging her, or is she a willing participant?
Well, you're right. Now you're both right. He's trying to drag her, and if she continues to go along with them being just shacking up, living together, whatever this thing is they're trying to do, I would say get out of it, because if what she really wants is a marriage and another baby, then that's what she should focus on. He's clearly not interested in that. And then last but not least, let's see. Wes says over at Stay Tuned Reviews, it's better for a man to just do what the woman what the woman tells him. It prevents him from having to grab the okay, enough of that. I get the idea. I get the idea. Stay tuned. Oh, Lord have mercy. Let me see. Oh, I thought that was the last one. People should always be considerate of their loved ones' feelings. I believe in the golden rule myself. Exactly. Mocha Mima wants to know about your IQ.
Nah.
He says, where? What? Who? And last one, J Dub says he's asking for more time when she doesn't have any. Jaysha makes excuses. Exactly. Yep. He's making excuses. Absolutely. I agree.
But did he make an excuse to say he just don't want any more children? That's not an excuse. That's him saying it.
Well, you're right. You and that part too. You're right. There's something she said that he said later on. It's kind of like he's saying that he doesn't want. You're right. He's very straight about that. But yet and still, he's still trying to convince her. So I don't know. To me, that doesn't seem right either. What do you think?
You know what this is? You know what this is, Aubrey? This is a battle of wills. Okay.
Yeah.
Jason is trying to convince Joy to break her down and to live his way. Okay. And she's trying to break him down to do what she wants him to do. So they're in this battle. Okay. If I stay in this long enough, eventually I will overtake the other one's will, and we will or won't have a child. But how many years are you willing to give for that battle?
Only a couple. I mean, if I'm her, I'm in her age too. Only a couple. I mean, I think what have they been together already? 1 year or 2 years?
2 years.
Okay, so you know this is the deciding time right here, right now. These next 6 months, this is the deciding time, because
I mean, and every day she has, if you notice with Joy, every day she sticks up that finger. There's no ring on it, you know. She,
you know what she sure does every single day with Luther, with Jacoby. She's always got that ring finger up in the air, going, "Okay, there's no ring on it. There's no ring on it." But you know, my other question, that's a good point. But my other question, my thought too, is, so is he willing to marry her as long as she agrees to no more children? Is that what it is?
Did he say that?
I'm asking you. I mean, he's kind of saying things that seem to be related to that. He says that he's willing to, on another episode, he says he's working hard to build for her and their future. So it sounds like marriage, but I'm not sure. But he just doesn't want to have children. So that's what I'm asking you. Did you ever get that? Did he ever directly say that? Or because I think that's what he seems to be saying. Like he will marry her, but he just wants to make sure she doesn't have any children on him.
Yeah, his struggle is not whether or not he loves her. He loves her. And that's part of the struggle because he loves her. He wants to be with her. He wants to build with her and have a future with her. He just don't want another child. And for her, it starts with being married and having another child. It starts there.
J-Dub says he never told her that he didn't want any more children. He said, well, you're right, J-Dub. He's saying like a 4 or 5 year wait, but at her age, that's as good as saying never. I mean, come on. Come on now.
Right. That's my point. Does she have 5 years to sit around and wait?
Read what's on the screen if you don't mind.
J-Dub, Jason mentioned finances may be a factor. They've taken 6 international trips and has a 100K Audi. Yeah, that part.
Oh my. Good point.
It's not money.
He's not ready for marriage or children. Oh wow. See, that's kind of what I was thinking too. I'm thinking just like you, J-Dub. He ain't ready. He don't want it. And I think really what it is, it doesn't matter what it is, but it seems like a fear from his last marriage. So that's a whole thing. But leave him right where you found him, girl, and move on. He's not ready. He's not interested. Go ahead.
And that's his excuse. They're constantly talking about how the first marriage broke up with the child, and he should have had therapy then before he got involved with Joya, if that's the case. Because how long are you going to keep riding that story?
Well, we're going to get back into these notes, and so we're still at the therapy session, the counseling session, and now we're on Zay and his woman Jazz. Jay is always saying all the right things. Have you ever noticed that? But does he really mean any of it? And what is he going to do different? Jazz says that Sean, her date, was intelligent and she enjoyed his company, but he was not street enough. Where have we heard that before? That a man is not street enough?
And that's her problem. Because as we find out later, she has a controlling issue. Okay. So if she got a man that's street and got some street in him, because I've heard women 45, 50 plus talking about
she's a mature woman. Yeah.
Right. I've heard him in my personal life. I need some thug in my man. You 45, 50 years old. What you need with a thug?
I think it all seems to kind of equate to some mystique in the bedroom. Don't you feel that way when you hear older women saying that? That seems to equate to some type of mystique and something that he's going to do different in the bedroom than a corporate brother would do, a white collar brother. He's just not going to, maybe in their mind, have the right bedroom moves. That's what I'm thinking.
I mean, even with the young,
I've never been attracted to thugs, so I don't know.
Even a young lady that went out with Jasha, she said, I want a nice guy, but not too nice. I mean, what does that really mean?
It's a cultural thing in the Black community. It seems to be a cultural thing that maybe comes from listening to too much rap music and listening to your girlfriends and they saying these type of things and you just become indoctrinated in it. That's my take on it, because I don't get it. I've never been into street thugs. I don't know.
I mean, what's too nice? The guy that don't argue with you, he opens too many doors. I mean, what's too nice? I don't understand that.
Well, I do see where sometimes, and I don't know, I do see where there is a difference between a guy that's just nice and courteous and the guy that's too passive. I don't want a man passive. I don't want a passive man. I want a manly man. Does that make sense? I want a manly man, and I don't want him to be passive, because if I can run all over him, not good.
In fact, she said that too. She said she wants a manly man. She said that.
Well, that's a guy. Yeah, that's a guy that's I mean, he has a certain aura about him. Other men are gonna just run up on him and challenge him like that.
Right.
Let's see what J-Dub is saying about this. J-Dub says she needs a thug to raise up. What grandkids? Who are we talking about here? Oh, the woman's 50 something, so she got grandkids, huh? Not all 50-year-olds, J Dub, have grandchildren, by the way. Let's see. We'll stay tuned. How would you all feel if Iyanla Vanzant was the host of this show? I think that she would bring a certain level of class. And you know what? I wouldn't have a problem with it. Would you have a problem with that, Alex?
No, I like Ayanla.
I do
Actually,
too. I do
yeah.
too. Yeah, and let's see. Roro is in here. She's saying, "I'm Ayanla's age bracket, and I think she is." I don't understand. She is shout out for telling a millionaire that she should marry the bus driver. I don't know if she's saying she should marry him. I think she asked would she date him? Would she
Right.
date her? You know, that's something, you know what? And actually that's a great point. We should do a little something really soon, this week maybe, in the evening about that whole thing with the Iyanla Vanzant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was on a podcast last night about that very thing.
Yes.
Mm.
I did get a chance to look at that. That was very interesting. Very interesting. So we'll move on. Let's see. So so Dr. Stacy, where I lost my train where I was at here. Zay doesn't want a second date with his date. She didn't hold his attention in her conversation. And I guess now, since he was so busy over there looking, because remember last date was the double dates, and they were in the same restaurant, and she was dating Sean, and he was so busy watching what Sean was doing, he couldn't even focus on his date.
Yeah, he was toe up.
He was toe up. I told you I think he really has feelings for that girl. Dr. Stacy says that both Ricky and Kat will be dating her this week, so that'll be interesting. And this week's date has a different theme. It's a family dynamics theme. The task this week is for them to look at their family dynamics, meet with close family members to see how the family dynamics relate to how they treat their partners. What'd you think about that? Her saying family dynamics relate to how you treat your partner.
Right, because this is what we spoke about, I think, on last podcast, how, sometimes your rearing, your upbringing, your environment shapes you as an adult, how you carry that childhood trauma into adulthood, unless you deal with it. And I think she wants to examine that. Dr. Stacy wants to examine that because that's a real thing.
Oh, okay. Oh, Roro's helping me out here. I don't know the DC slang, even though I have a daughter in DC. She's alluding to, okay, shout out is a DC slang for completely crazy. Okay. All right, I guess. I hated the way Zay treated his date because she referred to Jasmine as her. Yeah, wasn't that crazy? Like, that was like what you would say. That's like the pronoun for she, her, Jasmine. She's a woman. Yeah, go ahead.
I didn't see her as being that disrespectful because he was the one disrespectful. The way he kept looking away and ignoring his date, the woman in front of him. So
right.
Yeah.
Right. And so speaking of family dynamics, so Jasmine, we move on to the next scene. Jasmine meets with her mom. They look just alike. They are twin, and so does her younger brother, Devontae. They sit down at the table and they're eating their salads and they're talking. And mom says that Zay is more open and that Jasmine tends to focus more on him when they are out instead of just relaxing and being with her friends. She says that her daughter Jasmine is controlling, and that her brother asked Jazz, "Are you really ready to be married?" What do you think about that? What do you think about the interaction with Jazz's family?
Yeah, I think the fact that she comes from controlling people, according to her, and according to Jasmine, her mother's the head controller, according to her. Okay, so she comes from a family.
Did you hear what I said?
What'd you say?
I said my poor daughter is screwed.
Yeah, I mean, she comes from that. That's in her lineage. Okay, aunts, maybe a grandmother, her mama, all controlling, and now she's controlling. And you know what? This is why she probably watches Zay when they're out, because she wants to control the narrative. He better not do this, otherwise. He better not do that, otherwise. you know,
Hmm.
and unless he drink and get loose, he probably gonna be walking on eggshells. That may be why he drink like that, just to get himself loose from the eyes that's on him constantly.
Don't put his drinking problem. That man was drinking well before he met that woman. Don't put that on her. Don't put that on her.
But yeah, well, that's true. But the fact that she watches him like that, it's like, enjoy yourself. What are you watching him so much for? Because she's looking for him
Right.
to do something wrong,
She
so she can
does.
pounce on him.
She does. She does. You're right. Now she shouldn't be watching him. If I'm out having a good time with my guy, and it's my girlfriends or my family or other people, it's a group of us. I'm not going to be just so focused on what he's doing. If anything, he better be trying to be focused on what I'm doing if he know what's up. But I thought that it was interesting though too. What did you think about the mom telling her daughter Jazz that um, the promise ring that he gave her, that she should feel like that was a step in the right direction? Is that really at 40? Is that really a step in the right direction, or is her mom true and correct? Because he is younger than her, and for him, maybe that's what he needs to get to before the engagement. I don't know how I feel about that. What did you think about that?
Yeah, sometimes that's a maturity thing, but you 40 years old, you got to get the engagement ring. All this promise ring. You're promising what? I promise in 5 years I'll marry you. I'll promise in 10 years. A promise could be anything. And then you can break a promise, okay? But we know that engagement rings are anticipatory gifts. They're given in anticipation of marriage. That's symbolism. They have meaning, okay? So he still don't feel attached enough to give her an engagement ring. So go a friendship ring or a promise ring.
Read what J Dove says.
J Dub said Jasmine watches Zay because he has an alter ego. Yeah, when he drinks.
Okay, then this is the next part of what he's saying.
Zay has a strong relationship with alcohol. There you go. Exactly. There you go.
Oh, well, wait a minute. The killer. Oh, J Dub, you came in with this stroke last for the final sticking. Mom knows that Jasmine's options are limited. Oh man, you burned the whole house down with that statement right there.
That's why mom loves Zay so much.
I'm not gonna
Remember?
argue with you. I'm not gonna argue with you, Jay. I want to, as a woman, as an independent, strong, resilient black woman, I want to argue with you so badly, but I cannot. You are absolutely right. You are
Yeah.
absolutely right. So go ahead. What were you
Remember?
saying, Alex? I'm sorry.
Remember Jasmine said that took in my mother's eyes, Zay can do no wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because she knows what J Dub is saying. Her daughter's time is limited. Stick with this dude, grab him, hook him, you know, do something, because who you want to get after this? Another one, and another one, So that's why they like him and holding on to him so much. Like, man, listen, it's crazy. That's a
Wow.
lot. It's a
That,
lot.
that's deep. Well, she is a woman of a certain age. One, she is African American. Two, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Does does does, does,
that's a
does
that's another conversation we need to be having in our group too. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
does Jasmine have children?
No, I don't believe so. No,
I mean, I don't think no.
I
So
don't
that's
believe
the other
she
thing.
ever mentioned me. So,
Yeah, her clock is ticking.
right, her clock is ticking. Yeah. Okay, so is it that Jazz is impatient? But we move on over to Kat because we've covered them for a minute. Kat meets up with and this is very emotional. Kat meets up with her dad and her grandma. And we find out that her parents were actually teen parents, and that apparently her father left immediately before, either right before she was born or right after, to join the military. And she did not meet him for 14 years until she was 14 years old. And she's
Mhm.
very emotional as she talks about this is the reason why she was a parentified child who had to raise herself. And this is the reasons why she doesn't ever feel comfortable asking other people for any type of help or any type of assistance. She always tries to take everything on her shoulders, being that strong black woman. And we know that Zora Neale Hurston said that black women were the mules of the world. They were treated like the mules of the world, and that is absolutely correct. I felt so sad for her. I felt so sad for her in that moment that her dad was gone for 14 years and she did not know her dad. She did not have a quality father. And they didn't quite come out and say this, but did you get this, Alex, that there's an implication that her mom maybe had some fellows in the home or the house over her, that there was like maybe some DV going on in the home. I mean, I got all these implications, and I may be incorrect, but that's what it seemed like she was implying, that her mother, Ernestine, was quite a handful.
Right, right. And I got some of that as well. This is where her anger stems from. She
Yeah.
clearly has daddy issues. She clearly has never seen a healthy relationship growing up. Two people working together, two adults working together, for a greater purpose other than themselves. She hasn't seen that. She had to raise herself. She's probably seen a lot of DV or other kind of bad behavior within her household, or at least within her immediate environment. And that shaped her coming up. Okay. And you find what you find today. Catherine has a head trigger. I mean, she gets angry real quick, and this is what bothers Ricky, because she's so quick to it. Now you got a person that's quick to anger, and then the other person shelters their emotions. How is that going to work?
Wow. Yeah, good point. Good point. I will say though, for her father's side, when we talk about absentee Black fathers, deadbeat dads, and all this and that, and I'm not saying that he was a deadbeat dad. He definitely was. By his admission, he was absentee. But him being in the military, I'm assuming that meant that he put her down as a dependent, his daughter, and that because of that, the military would have automatically deducted, child support things out of his check. They would have had provisions for her. She would have had medical care that she would have had access to through her dad's benefits. But it just seems like, the dad wasn't there. But the one thing I did love about it, he took accountability, and he said that right now he's here now, and he's been there for a while apparently, and that anything that she needed him to do, and that seemed like including and up to and including maybe counseling, that maybe going to counseling with her father would be a way where the counselor could help her work through that childhood of abandonment, and she could begin to heal from that, so that she'd be a even healthier person for her current relationship or any future relationships. What do you think about that idea?
Yeah, and this is why I always take offense at a lot of people when they say things like, the father being absent within the home, or the kids will be okay. They got their mom. The kids will be fine. No, you okay?
What?
Okay. A lot of these strong, independent women say things like that. My kids will be fine. They don't need him. My kids will be fine. So this is just further evidence, which I already knew, that the children become damaged by that. And we have to stop doing that to these children. Now, if he was in the military, of course, you get deployed. You're away for a lot of the time. But I hope he put her on his benefits. I hope he, paid the child support. And when he came back from deployment, but she said she didn't meet him for 14 years. He wasn't deployed for 14 years. Okay, so where was he for 14 years? Did he make an effort to see her at all?
That's a good point. I mean, he could have been, you can be deployed, but you can also there's deployment, but there's also, in the military, it's called station. You're stationed in. So let's say, for example, I think she said she's from Dallas, Texas, right? So let's say he's stationed over in Connecticut, right? I mean, like, you just stationed somewhere because you're getting your training, and then oftentimes they send you out overseas. So for those reasons, probably, I'm assuming, I don't know, but I'm just going to assume and give him the benefit of grace that those were the reasons why he wasn't in her life. Also, if her mother, we hear that her mother had this, maybe perhaps this temper, there could have been some positioning by her mother that she didn't want. You know what I'm saying? Like we say, sometimes mothers actually do keep children from their fathers. That does happen. I don't know that happens, but it's possible.
Right. It does happen. And you just have to try to fight to see your child. Now, I don't know what his circumstances were. You just made a good point about stationing and things like that. People in the military get stationed all over the place. Okay. But that has nothing to do with maybe a phone call, a letter, You
Yes,
know,
yes,
have a relative go by and check and deliver a message. You know, I mean, you have a lot of different things you can do, particularly with the advent of technology. You know,
right.
there's a lot of things you could have done.
Yeah, because
So,
what Catherine is, what is she still in her 20s or is she about 30? But we're gonna say going back, I mean, like this is with cell phones and everything. There is a lot that could have been done. Letters don't hurt. FaceTime if possible over the
mm,
last several years. But yeah, there's a lot that can be done. But here's the thing too, fathers that are create children outside of marriage, and mothers, you have to have a desire to want to keep that parent involved, and that parent has to have a strong desire to want to be involved and to even sometimes have to overcome obstacles that they're going to overcome them because this is my child and I'm going to have a place in my child's life. That has to be something that has to be a desire,
mm.
you know.
And,
So
this is a prime example of chickens coming home to roost for women that do this kind of stuff that prohibit the child from seeing the father, from mentioning the father. There's even been women who told the child, "Your dad's deceased," when he's not. Okay, so you do these things thinking the child's going to be three forever. Then when the child gets grown enough, upper teens or adulthood, and find out the truth and resent you, now you're upset. I raised you. I was there for you. No, you lied her whole life. You've been lying to her. So how is she supposed to feel?
right. Yeah, J Dub brings up a good point that she doesn't even refer to her mother as a mom, as mom.
Mm,
My notes say she feels like Kat feels like she raised herself, and then she calls her mean self Ernestine after her own mom. She says Ernestine. Once again, this episode for me really hits close to home. This is just a lot of
mm,
stuff that is somewhat triggering and interesting for me to deal with as a commentator on this topic, and recapping it is very interesting.
mm,
um yeah, and I won't go into that right now, but we'll talk about it later, guys. We'll talk about it later. Back at the house with Kat and Rick, they await for Dr. Stacy's arrival. Kat says that she isn't sure if they've been doing good or not. And Dr. Stacy says, well, Kat, the reason why I'm having this interview with you guys and talking to you is because of the way you blew up just like out of nowhere. Like that's the reason for the visit. um Catherine admits that Smokey, now she got a new name for the character, was Ernestine last time, but now it's Smokey. And that's the character that protected her as a child when she was coming up. Smokey had to be like really tough and really hardcore to protect her from all the things that she dealt with. What did you think about this?
yeah, and she's doing that in her relationship with Ricky. So in many ways, if you really think about it, she's more masculine than Ricky.
Yeah,
Okay,
yes, yes, she
so so how is she going to look at him for protection and leadership? Well, first of all, you won't allow it because you got all this masculine energy.
is. Right.
Okay, and second of all, you're severely damaged and you haven't dealt with it yet.
No.
She got to deal with those things.
We first got an instinct of this or inkling of this when Corey, the older gentleman that she dated, that she had met at work. Remember when they had the dates with date one of your exes, and she had a date with that short guy Corey. He told us this, and we hadn't at that time, at that point in time, we had not seen Smokey, Ernestine. We hadn't seen any of these hair trigger characters in Cat. But now that we've seen them, it's like, wow, Corey tried to tell us that this is who she was.
Yeah, and Ricky's not a confrontational guy. He shuts down, and he said that in this episode. When things get like that, he may get loud or elevated, but she always get more elevated, which means no matter how loud he gets, she's going to overtalk him. She's going to bring him down. So she has that power to do that. And as we see on the show, he'll just get up and walk away. He'll flee.
Wow. Go ahead. Continue.
But yet she says she loves him. And when she speaks to Ricky, she tears up. I really believe she do love him. The trick is she doesn't know how to love him. She has to love him the way he needs to be loved. And I don't think she know how. because she's fighting all these other demons in her life that she came up with. And he's not going to love that person. He could be friends with the person that Cat is, but it's difficult to love that person and build a life with a person like that. When there's constant chaos in your household, all right, and the person you love most is always screaming and yelling, and you're walking on eggshells, you can't build a house on eggshells.
Mm. Wow. Donna D, I see your comment in there. We're gonna come back to that. I got a star on it, so we'll come back to that because that's a very good point that you're making too. We're gonna come back to that though, okay?
All right.
Um yeah. Woo, this is getting good. Um so when Ricky admits that, like you said, that he gets loud, but like you said though, to her point, Kat, she gets even louder still, and like you said, she brings a lot of masculine energy into that relationship, right? Um, Dr. Stacy asked Ricky if he can listen to Kat when she says that she wants to table a discussion, because that's part of it. Part of what Kat was saying, though, too, is that when Ricky wants to jump in and talk about, let's say, XYZ, or let's say, for example, the double date, when Marcus was touching all over her body, kissing her, and as you pointed out last week, he was kissing on her neck, eating the food off of her near her bosom, all of these different things, touching her on her behind. If he wanted to talk about that, but let's say they're out, Kat says sometimes they're out and about. He wants to get into these discussions and they're out in public, and she feels like these are more private discussions. And she asked him to table it. And then he goes back and forth with her. He raises his voice and they make a scene. They're out and about. I think the last thing she said, they were at a taco stand and they were having this huge argument. Me personally,
Mhm.
I hate to see couples out in public having arguments. I think like that is the craziest, stupidest thing that I've ever seen. You're out in public and you're having an argument that you could have had in the car, at home, wherever. Um, but anyway, the doctor's asking, will he listen to her? And then he kind of gets like, you can tell he's kind of like trying to find the right words to express what he's trying to say, what he's thinking. So then the doctor suggests, well, Ricky, can you write down whatever it is so that you can express it, but write it down, keep it with you, keep a notebook or whatever, and then discuss it at a better time. And then what I said, and I thought the doctor was going to suggest this, also what she could have added to that is that they need to set a day and time. So if this is on Saturday and this is in the afternoon, and we're going to table this discussion, let's table it for tomorrow, Sunday, after church, 4 o'clock afternoon. We're going to have this discussion. Let's not put it off indefinitely when we're going to talk about this, because this is clearly something that is upsetting you and bothering you. And we're going to keep having this same issue until we deal with it and resolve it. What do you think?
Yeah, some people, Aubrey, they want to get in the moment when everybody's heated, the
Mm-hmm.
emotions are elevated, people
Mm-hmm.
are angry, okay, and everybody's yelling back and forth trying to solve something. Nobody's listening at that point. And
Mm-hmm.
some people have to really take a step back because they don't have the vocabulary, or they haven't tamed their feelings enough to speak in the moment of heightened
Mm-hmm.
emotion. So they have to step back at some point and write down what they feel, okay, and get their words together, and then come back and say, "This is what I was feeling. This is how I felt when you did this to me." They have a chance to go back and reflect and think about it. Some people are good in the moment. They just quick with it or whatever. But some
Mm-hmm.
people are just angry, and you can't talk to an angry person. You're gonna shut down, because the minute somebody start calling you names and stuff, that's it. You shutting down.
Mm,
Nobody's listening, and nothing gets solved.
mm, mm. I want you to see, because you're busy talking. I want you to see what J Dub said. I don't know. I think I'm gonna have to block him from this channel now.
You funny. Now, J Dub been agreeing with you the entire podcast. As soon as he says something about me, you want to block him. You hear that?
The devil is a liar. Are
So
you gonna read
J
it?
Dub said Alex is on point about Cat.
Okay, about Cat.
Mhm. Yeah, about
Stay
Cat.
there at that. Okay, and then Roro
Mhm.
says Ricky and Catherine are both. Yes, that's what I'm seeing. They're both are toxic. But you know what? But I guess I'll say this though too. I felt that way, and then in this scene with the doctor, I began to see though too. They are toxic, maybe because of the fact that they don't have the tools. So when we say toxic, and then, it kind of makes a person seem bad and like they should be tossed aside or tossed away. But they really need tools, and I felt for them both in this scene, because especially having seen Kat with her father and finding out the trauma behind being born to teenage parents, her mother not being very nurturing, her father not even being physically present at all for 14 years. I really began to have a heart and a real concern about her, and then a very deep concern about him too, because he's, like Alex says, some people aren't good about expressing their feelings. Ricky's talked about that. He felt like that men aren't allowed to express themselves, and he doesn't know how to express himself, and he doesn't want to be thought of as weak. So I really just began to have a heart for these people in this episode. It's just it's like I said, it's so much of life imitating art. Or if this is a it, I felt for everybody in this episode. I really did. Donna D, in talking about it's J. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Alex. Go ahead, and I'll read this later. Go ahead.
Yeah, no. Ricky said that his protective mechanism is to shut down, and that's to protect himself. He said, from hurt, from pain. Okay, but you can't do that in a relationship. You have to be vulnerable, and that's what the doctor Stacy's trying to tell him when she wanted him to feel something about Kat's date with Marcus. Nobody said you got to jump up and act crazy, jealous, and fight the dude and carry on like a fool. But what do you really feel about this date? Because you didn't like it, so just say what you felt.
Right, because he basically really kind of started lying to the therapist when he was saying that he didn't have any feelings at all. We clearly saw that he had feelings. We clearly saw that he was emotional. We clearly saw that he cared and he was concerned that this man was touching all over his girlfriend. We clearly saw that. But then when we get in the therapy session, he says, "Well, no, I didn't have any feelings. Oh, it didn't bother me." Well, you cannot have therapy and not be truthful with your therapist. That you might as well not even go. Because this is what therapy is about, is bearing your soul, so that the therapist can help you to figure out what really is going on. Go ahead.
Right. And you're right. Absolutely right. And, Jasha had this kind of the same thing going on with him. But this episode, he blinked.
He sure did. We're coming to that. We're coming to that. We're coming to that. That is so true. Let's see here.
Yeah, Donna D had a good comment back a little ways.
Yeah. I'm trying to. Okay, look, I'm working in the order. I have ADHD, right? I'm working in the order that my brain processes things in. But I'll go back. You want to talk about? Okay, we'll go back and talk about this right here, because this was interesting. Right here, I think you're talking about this. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll read this. She's addressing J Dub's comment. She said, "My generation too. Sometimes the mother requests to be called by her first name where they want to act younger than they are. But the way Catherine says it, it does appear disrespectful." Yeah.
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah, and that's too. I think so that's the comment she's making in terms of Ernestine, when Catherine is talking about her mother and she calls her Ernestine, and also calls her mean self Ernestine. Yeah, I've seen that where younger mothers want to be called by their first name, but typically in the Black community, and I'm just going to say this, you guys can get angry or whatever, but typically what I know of in the Black community, Black mothers do not like to be called by their first names. They want to be called mom, mother, or something of that nature. And when you typically see this is in Caucasian communities, where women want to be called by their first name and they want to act like they're sisters with their daughters. I've not, in my community, and you tell me if I'm wrong, Alex, but I've not seen this widespread. Like maybe one or two random folk here and there, they don't really count, but you don't see that in the Black community.
I don't know a Black kid growing up in my neighborhood that ever called their mother by the first name. Okay,
I grew up, knock your nose off your face.
I grew up in a neighborhood when I grew up. If you was outside and the street lamp came on, your mother was outside with a belt. So if your mother outside with a belt, you damn sure ain't calling her by her first name. That's a wrap. That's not even a question. Okay, they didn't play that. But to your comment about different ethnic groups, I grew up with a couple of white families early on when I was a kid,
Mm-hmm.
and look. They smoked cigarettes with their mother. They
Oh
cursed.
yeah,
They
drink.
cursed. They cursed around their mother. They called their mother by her first name. All the stuff you said, that's what they did, and I've seen it, but not in the black households.
Yeah. Well, now you know what. Now I will say, as we got into the 80s, I saw families. I did see some black families that did that. That what you talk about, the smoking, drinking, hanging with their young kids. Because they were young parents. So like, let's say they were teenage parents, or maybe 20, barely 20 when they had their children, and they still wanted to be young and hip and hot or whatever like that. But uh,
It's, it's, it,
because I grew up in a church community, I mean, my early years, my first 18, 19 years were basically all revolving around school and church. I did not see that. I did not see that. I know it exists. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but this whole thing, the concept of calling your mother by your first name, I shudder just thinking of it. And my mother has been gone for many, many years, but I shudder to even think if I'd ever called my mother by her first name. As far as my own children, I think I've had one child to try that, and I don't think that they want to try that anytime again soon, because I don't play that. I don't even like my nieces. I have had nieces. And when she graduated high school years ago, she decided that she was just going to call me. She was going to drop the auntie and just call me by my first name. And after a couple of attempts of explaining to her that not to do that, I said, you know what? Go ahead, call me what you want to call me. Just know that I'm not going to ever answer. And that was the end of that. Like, that's the end of that relationship, because you're not going to call me by my first name, and you're a minor. I mean, not even a minor, but you're a child, and I'm your aunt, and I've done all these things for you. I want the respect that title carries, and that's aunt.
yeah, you're not my peer.
You're not
You
my peer.
know,
Not at
yeah.
all. Not at all.
And to your point, Aubrey, you mentioned that a lot of young mothers, you may have seen somewhat of a transition in the 80s, right? And you should appreciate this. So you say you see the transition in the 80s, and I agree with some of that. But what is the music that you always talk about that grew and blossomed and blew up in the 80s to change a generation?
Are we talking about rap? Or is that
We're
what you're
talking
saying?
about rap music. We're talking about rap music. And this is
Mm-mm.
where these younger mothers started wanting to party with their kids because of rap music.
You see what J Dub says about all the kids who called their mother by their first name are now resting in peace.
I'm telling J Dub, no, listen. My mother came outside with a belt if the street light came on. How am I going to call this woman by her first name? Are you kidding me? I couldn't do nothing. I got a beating. So you couldn't even dream that. We all use the word damn, right? I couldn't even say
Right.
dag in my house. DAG. It sounds too much like damn. I got beat for that. Okay, so my mother didn't play, man. It wasn't that kind of party. And my mother would say that too. It ain't that kind of party. That was one of her sayings. You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean, because my mother, people will laugh now, but my mother growing up coming from Houston, Texas, the PISS word was a curse
Yeah,
word.
right.
There were I can't even begin to think. There were a few words that I could not say, and they weren't anybody else you would ask from up north. They weren't curse words, but because she came from the south and came up here to Detroit, those were curse words. And to this day, I struggle. I don't even say them. I don't even say those words. When I hear people say the PIS word, I start shaking and trembling in my boots, because I'm looking around for my mother to come and smack me, you know.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But we're gonna finish up with these cards and wrap this up. So, like I said, I was surprised that Dr. Stacy, and to J Dub's point, yeah, a lot of times people want to sweep things up under the rug. To your point, J Dub, and I was a little surprised that Dr. Stacy didn't have them also set a time and a day, because if he has an issue with Kat about something she's doing, or something that he would like her to change, or something he wants to just her to hear him out about, they should both try to agree. Like, if we can't talk about this now, I'm on my way to work. We're outside. We're out in the public, and this is a thing that's probably going to lead to an argument. It won't look dignified. Why don't we table this till tomorrow at 5 p.m.? I don't see anything wrong with that, but I do hate when people, because a lot of times, to me, J-Dub, this particularly happens with men whenever you want to talk about where's your relationship and where does it stand. You always got that guy that's going to say, well, we'll talk about it after the podcast or something like that, right? So, yeah, whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we'll talk about it later.
Yeah, I got you later.
Yeah.
So moving on, Joya and Luther are out chatting about where she and Jasha are on their journey, and she tells them. And so then the chat, it comes pretty easily. He's a articulate young man. He's nice looking. And turns out he's a Scorpio. Now, I don't know anything about Scorpios, and I don't know if you know anything about Scorpios either, Alex, but apparently, according to Joya, the Scorpios are very sensual beings. And so the conversation kind of takes a very intimate turn where they're discussing these yoga harnesses that are used as for sex play. So it was very interesting. Yeah. What did you think about all of this?
You know what I find interesting? I find interesting that Joya brought up the sex in this date, but was offended when Jacoby did it. You see, you see a sense of hypocrisy there. Now I know Jacoby's delivery sucks, but you're still talking about sex on the first date. Okay, now what's her reason for bringing that up? Okay, now what I like about Luther is quick-witted.
Yes, he was. I liked him. He's
very quick-witted, intelligent man. Okay, very well spoken, nice looking, and was able to make her laugh. And people want to laugh. Life is too serious, man. People want to laugh.
Yeah, let's have a good time. And plus we're on a date. That's what a date should be, a good time.
Right. And I think if things keep going like this with Luther, Jasha might be in a little bit of trouble. I know it's a first date, but Luther's a very, very nice guy, and she gave him a second date. So there was some chemistry there.
Okay.
So there you go. There you go.
Wow.
This harness, I don't know what that's about.
Well, let me hush and not be telling all my business.
No. Listen, now whose turn is it? It's your turn to plead the fifth commandment.
Are you there? Yep. Thank you for saying it for me. Thank you, and have a nice day. I grew up in church, but I didn't always stay there, though. Let me say that part.
Oh my goodness. Hey, Kimberly.
Yeah, hey Kimberly. So that was interesting, and I think he made for a very interesting date with her. As you said, that is interesting. The double standard. I think I see kind of a little bit of what it is, though. I'm thinking. Think back to when Jasha said himself. He said that his woman was very sensual, and that he loved the way she looked at him and how she gave him those seductive stares and whatnot. I think she is, just at the end of the day, just a very sensual being, and I think that the conversation kind of naturally led into this discussion of sex. But I don't know. Like I said, I never heard anything specifically about a Scorpio being so sensual or so sexual. For me, it's always been the Aries fellows. It's always been the Leo fellow or the Taurus fellow, that just those three astrological signs, or when people were born, they seem like those men have a lot of leadership. They have a lot of talent. They have a lot of skills, let's say, right?
Yeah.
Have you ever noticed yourself being particularly attracted to any particular astrological sign?
No, I'm not a big astrology guy, but I will tell you, not only were both my wives Leos, both their birthdays were August 1st. I don't know how that happened.
Wow.
You
Wow.
know,
Wow.
very strange.
Very, very strange. I would say so indeed. I would agree.
But I'm not a big astrological sign type of guy, getting real deep and heavy into that. You know,
Mhm.
I just believe more in the what the creator is doing. You know, you know, as opposed to the astrological signs. You know, I know people like to do that and believe in that, so I'm not putting anybody down for that. I just look
Right,
more
right.
toward. I just look more toward our Father, Creator.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know, but I do think there's something. And as a believer, I can't say that I subscribe to the astrological science and all the science behind astrology or astronomy, but I do think that there are people born in certain particular times of the month or year. They do have similar, for whatever reason, they do seem to have similar traits. Because, like you just pointed out, both of your ex-wives were not only same astrological sign, but same birthday. So clearly, you were attracted to similarities, probably in both of them. And what
Mm,
I've seen with Leos, particularly that were men, is that they're very strong leaders. And I'm very attracted to a man that has a lot of leadership ability, because for me, but leadership is also defined by servitude, if that makes sense. A
right.
good leader is also a good servant. Those things go
Yeah.
hand in hand for me.
Uh,
So
Yeah. Yeah. And biblically, that would be a great steward. You
right,
know.
correct.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
and so, but we move on from Joya and her fun with the yoga harness. Um, Joya says that in her confessional that she actually liked her date and she enjoyed the conversation, which we could clearly see that, like you said, there was a chemistry between them. And then we move on to Kenyetta, who meets up with Zay, and Kim. I hope I'm saying her name correctly.
Yeah.
Kenyetta, is that
Kenyatta, something
Ken?
like that. I think it was.
I got Kim Yetta here, so I'm gonna stick with that for
Yeah.
right
Yeah.
now. Kim
Okay.
Yetta,
Yeah.
she or Kim Yada, she's a we find out that she's a real Georgia peach, and she's also a flight attendant. Zay has a thing for flight attendants, and he says that he wants to be a pilot for 10 years. And I'm like, no, 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 Zay, you did not want to be a pilot for 10 years. You simply wanted to be in that movie. What was that comedy movie where they flew the airplane with
That's what
uh
it was called. Airplane.
Airplane, yeah. That's
Hmm.
what I said. He really just wanted to be. He wanted to be in that episode, or he wants to like land a plane. I think that's what he wants. He wants to have to be the hero in a movie or in a real life and actually land a plane. But he doesn't want to be a pilot because with all these other things that he said that he does that are highly expensive extreme sports, he would have been taking pilot lessons and he would have had his pilot's license by now.
I'm gonna tell you this. He keep drinking the way he drinking. He gonna land that plane in a very unpopular way.
Ooh, ooh.
You know, you can't handle those kind of machines drinking.
No,
Mm-mm.
no, you absolutely cannot. But you know what else I said? Now, this is the thing that I see oftentimes as I'm going through these notes and we're having these conversations, it hits me where the similarity is. So Zay says he wants to fly a plane for 10 years, but he's never taken what, one lesson? So he's about
He
to
read
make
some
her
books.
He's about to he's about to make her 10 years a girlfriend. Do you see that similarity right there? 10 years a girlfriend he's about to make her with this promise ring that people give each other when they're like teenagers and in their early 20s. Here these folks are in their mid and late 30s and he's trying to give her a promise ring. See, that's what that is. 10 years
Yeah.
he wants to be a pilot, 10 years he wants to make her a wife. That's where I see the
Mm.
similarity.
That's where you made the correlation.
That's the correlation right there. Right there. I put my stamp on it. I stand 10 toes down in it.
I hope your toes ain't crusty. But here's the thing.
You know what? I almost said something that I don't want to say in front of everybody else. This is not for mixed company, but that's all right. You'll like it. You'll like them. You'll like them. So just
But you know, the I didn't get that correlation.
okay.
I didn't
What
get that
correlation?
correlation.
What tie-in did you get out of all this? The 10 years that he wants to be a pilot, but never has taken one lesson. What did you get out of it?
Procrastination. Period.
Same thing. That's the same
Yeah.
thing. That's what I'm saying. He's going to
Mm-hmm.
put it off for 10 years. That's my point.
Mm-hmm. He's a procrastinator.
But that's a choice, right? He's a procrastinator, but he not even so much. I think in this instance, it's a choice. I don't think he's very serious either about being a pilot nor about being a husband and being married. That's the point.
Yeah.
That's the point.
Yeah. I don't
Mm-hmm.
don't get that either. I don't get that either.
That he wants to be a husband.
Yeah. I don't get that. Or wants to be a pilot. You'd have been taking lessons 10 years.
Right, exactly. Because I know a friend of mine, in fact, a friend of mine, and used to be, I keep thinking of him as a little boy. He is now a full-fledged attorney and has been for several years, decades. But he went and took pilot lessons, and he's a full pilot. So it's not that difficult. Another kid that I used to take care of is a pilot now, and he's in his probably mid-20s. So it's not that difficult. It's expensive. Yeah. It's expensive.
Yeah.
But it's not difficult.
Yeah, it's like caring for horses. Very expensive. It's an expensive thing to do, you know. J Dub says signs are real, and I'm not saying they're not, J Dub. I'm just saying that I will put our Father, the Creator, first, and then I'll deal with the other stuff.
Absolutely. I agree with you on that. And like I said, I have caught some similarities in people that are born in the same month, the same time, or whatever you want to call it. But I don't sit up and just write my whole life based on horoscopes or anything like that.
And you know what else, Aubrey, that Jay did? He kind of put himself in the category of a nerdy thug. Because
yes, let's talk about that. When Zay says in his past life, because his date was saying that she goes to Puerto Rico, and she says that she's part Puerto Rican, but then she told him, she says, I tell people that, but I'm really not. And he says, well, I felt like in a past life that I was white. And she got so quiet. And I said, and I told you this too, I don't understand why Black people get so offended when you say something about being white, or you maybe were born white, or you're in a previous life. I don't understand that, because honestly, when I look at African Americans, many of us are racially mixed. Whether it's like it doesn't have to be a direct parent, but like in my family tree, once I found my biological family, I also found out that my grandfather was Polish. Okay. And that's a big thing here, because in Michigan, in Detroit, there's a big Polish sector, right? There's a big German sector and there's a big Polish sector. So why would that be like a big deal for me to say that to people, and people like frown at you? But if you say, yet and still, if you say you're mixed with Indian, then like that's not frowned upon. I don't understand that.
Well, it's the historical context, Aubrey. I think when people say that in a past life I was white, or I want to be white, or anything along those lines, right away our minds go to slavery. How do you want to be like your oppressor with all the evil and cruelty that he's done? How would you want to be like that? Our mind goes there, even though that's not what he's saying.
Okay. Yeah, I see what you're saying, because I do get that now if you put it in that way and form. But I guess because for me, I've studied a lot of history, and all of history, if you go through history, Black people enslaved Caucasian people long before they enslaved us. So all of people in the world have been enslaved. Their people or their ancestors have been enslaved at some point in time, including Europeans, including Caucasians. So my mind, for me, doesn't like put somebody, trap them in a box of because they're white, they're an oppressor. But what he was saying was, and I got it totally, because I think like he sounded like my father. He said that he liked the History Channel. My dad used to love the History Channel. I don't know if anybody remembers who Jacques Cousteau was, but my dad, we used to sit and watch Jacques Cousteau for hours.
Jacques Cousteau, man. Ooh, he stayed underwater.
Underwater, right. Extreme sports. Now, my dad, didn't have the luxury and the money to do extreme sports. I like country music, so I totally related to a lot of that, what he was saying, and I thought it was just so funny. But for me, it was just so funny how she got so quiet. Like she got like so quiet, like you would have thought somebody had cursed her, called out.
Yeah, and also, Aubrey, just for the record, there were Blacks that sold Blacks into slavery. Nobody talks about that either. But
that's a thing. That is a whole thing. That is a whole thing, right?
Yeah, but he said things like, as a Black guy, Jay said, I have habits that the average Black guy don't have. I like skiing. You know, I like hiking and these different I like skateboarding. You know, these kind of things that nerdy white guys tend to gravitate to. He said he liked those things, country music. I like country music.
I love
Okay,
country music. I'm
I like
sorry. I
country.
love it, guys. If you don't like it,
Yeah,
it's too bad, but I love it.
yeah, I love country music. You know
I've
what I
loved
mean?
it since
So,
I was a little girl, and I love it even more because honestly speaking, there are more black people now that are into this new genre of country music. There are a lot of
mm,
black artists that are into it, and they are doing the darn thing.
yeah, yeah.
But
When I
mhm.
grew up, I used to like soft rock in the 70s. When I was a kid,
I
I liked
love
soft
South Rock
rock.
of the
Okay,
'70s. Oh my God,
but
yes.
in my neighborhood, it wasn't cool to bring home Carly Simon or any of
Oh
those
my
kind of
God,
acts.
no, Carly Simon, she's a
It,
queen. She's queen of
it,
South Rock.
it wasn't cool to bring home, Pat Benatar. And I liked that. Pat Benatar was kind of a
Hit
hard
me with
rocker,
your best
but
shot.
yeah,
Fire
uh, uh,
away. Okay,
you off
sorry.
key, you off key,
Sorry.
or
Hey, I never said I could carry a tune. I'm sorry. I won't try that again. I won't try that again. I promise you, if you come back the next time, I promise you, I will not try that again. But I love Pat Benatar. Okay, I'm sorry.
right. And
Okay,
I
so
loved all those artists. So, but when he said that, I thought
mhm,
about myself, and I was about as tough as they come when I grew up, but I
mhm.
still liked those things.
Oh yeah. I mean, like I said, there was well, who do you remember Sonny and Cher? Sonny
Yep,
and Cher,
absolutely.
like pop music. I mean, pop music to me during the '70s, the '70s and the '80s was a real thing, and it didn't matter about your color. Like for a long time, I know a lot of people wouldn't admit it, but the Carpenters. Do you remember the Carpenters?
Yeah, yeah.
Black
Karen
people loved
Carpenter.
the Black people loved the Carpenters, but they kept it on the low low. Like they was on the
Yep.
down low about that stuff. Like really, I love the
Yep.
Carpenters. And
Karen
remember,
Carpenter.
remember when disco music came around, the Bee Gees.
Yep. Love the Bee Gees.
The Bee Gees,
Yep.
man, they were
Night
bad.
Fever. Night
Yep,
Fever.
yep.
You
So
know how to do it. I hit that note, didn't you? You didn't think I could do that, did you?
you did it. You did it. You did it. You did it. You did that thing there. Okay, so we're gonna move on. Enough of us singing now. Okay, so all right. So now we're on to we meet with Joya. Joya is meeting with her sister. I'm sorry, her sister Taffy, her older sister, and they sit down and discuss the timeline issues of it all with Jasha. And her sister asked her what does she really think that she's ready for this, and she thinks that she's ready to be a wife and a mother. Um and this is really interesting. So do you think that Joya is ready? Do you think she's really ready
Yeah, on her terms.
on her terms? Okay.
On her terms. And Jasha's ready on his terms.
Which is to me never. I mean, he's talking about 5 years. He might as well say never, because that lady, her uterus ain't gonna hold up for another 5 years. I'm sorry.
I mean, it may, but it becomes riskier.
It becomes very risky. Okay, I'll say that. You're right. I don't
Mhm.
know. I don't know. I hate to sound so definitive, but I feel like that another 5 years is going to put her in extreme risk, as well as the baby in extreme risk, to wait that long to have a baby when there's no reason why they should wait. If they decide they love each other, and that's what he wants to do as well, but he doesn't. So I guess the other flip side of it is that if she breaks up with him, now she has to meet, find, and cultivate a relationship with another man who is actually serious about getting married and having children, and that will take another 3 years.
Right. Because you really can't do that stuff quickly, Aubrey. I know a
No,
lot of people do it, but you
no.
should not do that quickly. You're talking about building a family with somebody you've known 3 months. That's a tough road to hoe. It really is.
Right. And so we end up back in the therapy office, back in the therapy session with Dr. Stacy, with all the couples, and we go around the room, and we have a little bit of a laugh with Jasmine, because Jasmine's talking about her visit with her mom and her brother, and then she said, and then Zay joins in and says, "But Jazz is not the problem." And he actually said that, and Dr. Stacy said, "Well, wow, that's impressive that you were able to realize that she's not the problem, that you're part of the problem. But see, this is what I say about Zay. Zay is good at saying what sounds good, but Zay don't follow through with nothing. Nothing at
Mm-hmm.
all. Nothing at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah, he may say what sounds good, but his communication skills are horrible.
They're
You
horrible.
know. Yeah,
And
he
he's
has real bad communication skills.
and as you pointed out with the pilot thing, in 10 years he's a procrastinator too. So that's the problem.
Right. Yep.
But
Absolutely.
But Zay says he enjoyed Kenyatta, whatever her name was. He enjoyed her. He likes her. He loves the fact that she's a flight attendant. And Jazz does kind of confess to having some controlling ways, which he's already aware of. Kat says that she wants to be a better woman, and Dr. Stacy helps encourage her and says, "You are becoming a better woman." So she gives her, in other words, what I noticed that Dr. Stacy did in that moment, she gave her an affirmation for her to keep repeating to herself that I am becoming a better woman, and reminds her that all of life, we are always in the process of becoming throughout life. And I thought that was very beautiful. And Joya, she said she thinks that she's ready to uh, to be this mother
Mhm.
of a child. And then we get into the trailers for next week, and they look interesting. What did you think about the trailers?
Yeah, I think it's interesting because Marcus with Catherine, he's really going to shoot his shot in this episode, and we're going to see how she's going to handle that.
Say that again. I'm
Really
sorry.
going to see that. We really going to see how Catherine's going to handle that because Marcus seems to really be going to taking the time. They're going to shoot his shot. I can take care of you. I can give you everything you're not getting. I mean, he's going to lay it all out there for her, almost to the point where he wants her to make a decision now.
Yeah, isn't that something? Like, he's really saying all this stuff, and I'm thinking to myself, but does he recognize the severity that this woman is trying to work her business from home? Her business apparently isn't successful enough for her to be able to afford certain things that she might need. Is he okay with that? And how does she know him well enough that she's going to accept that type of intimate help from him? What do you think about that?
And that's it. You don't. So you got to really get past the physical, okay, and really start thinking about, if I start all over again with somebody new, what am I going to find out? So there's always things you're going to find out down the road. We're all imperfect. We're all imperfect beings. Okay. Right. So you're going to find stuff you don't like, and you're already dealing with a situation that you're not handling well. And on top of that, you still haven't dealt with your issues. I'm pretty sure Marcus probably wouldn't be able to deal with your anger either.
Marcus don't seem like he gonna put up with no mess like that. Now, I'm just gonna tell you. Right. And I think that sometimes people can have anger issues, but let's be real clear. A person that's not a dummy is not going to direct their anger at somebody that's not going to put up with it. You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah, I got you.
She goes off on Ricky because Ricky is passive and she sees him as being weak, so she does that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but I don't see her going off on big man Marcus. I just don't.
No, I don't see that either. But a crazy person, you never know.
You never, yeah, you don't, and you're right. She could be triggered, and it could still go off. But what about this? What about Jasha is on a date with this beautiful, gorgeous woman who he says resembles quite closely his Joya, who is petite and shapely and seductive like her, and also very feminine because he's very big on feminine energy. That looks like that's going to be a recipe for some real jealousy right there. That beautiful young lady.
And does that woman want children?
Ooh,
we didn't get in. They didn't get into that.
I think, we didn't. We'll see that on next week. But I'm guessing from looking at her, even though she resembles and they have similar attributes and features, they're both very beautiful. But I'm thinking that woman is quite a bit younger than his woman. So that would be the difference. So like if she's 31 compared to his woman's, 38, 37, 38. That's a whole 7 years that, like if he just wants to monkey around he claims only 4 or 5 more years, she'd be okay with that because she'd still be well within that 34, 35 year limit.
Mm-hmm. Right. And she was very pretty, and she did favor Joya somewhat.
She did, like they could have been cousins or something. Both very
Right.
beautiful. So it's a lot coming up next week. We're gonna see. And then this is the question I have for you guys, and drop this in the chat and before we get out of here. I wondered because we didn't see any of the men with their family. We didn't see Jasha with his family. We didn't see Ricky with his family. We didn't see Zay with this family. So is that like coming up next week also?
And Ricky's family, they got to bring a whole nother camera crew in there for his family because everybody.
But you know what I'm talking about. We didn't see them specifically having conversation the way we saw the women this week, right? We saw the women actually having intentional conversation with their family about how their family dynamics equated to them and how they treated their significant others as adults.
Yeah, and I hope that they do get into the men interacting with their family, because I'm very curious about how Ricky interacts with the women in his family. Not so much the men, but the women in his family.
Why? Why how he interacts with the women?
Because I want to see if he's dealt with that anger throughout his life from women, which has made him timid.
Could be, especially if he has a mother that's a very strong figure. Because we saw that last season with Otis. Otis apparently had a reaction to his mother and how his mother and father, their interaction, because he decided that he was never going to be treated the way his mother treated his father.
Exactly. So he decided to be the complete opposite, which was either a borderline a-hole or a total a-hole, somewhere in the middle.
I'm leaning toward total a-hole. But call me after the podcast and we'll talk about it further.
You don't want to give Otis a break, do you?
Never. Not even one day, one time. But go ahead and tell them what you got going on over on your channel before we get on out of here.
Yeah, I'm doing some things over on my channel, doing some restructuring, working on some content that I'm going to be hopefully releasing within the next week or so. Got some great shorts over there. There's 90 videos over there, people. Magnetic Repellent. There's 90 videos there. There are shorts and there are other longer videos. So go over there and find something you like. Leave some likes, comments, and subscribe, and tell a friend.
That's right. I got it up there on the screen. I don't know. Our moderators, I guess they quit on me. I'm not paying them enough. Oh, y'all come back. I need your help.
They're on strike.
They're on strike. Mod strike. Guys, we appreciate you for being here with us over another great Put a Ring on It recap. As soon as I said it, come Monique, like, look, lady, you don't pay me enough for this kind of harassment. Thank you, Monique.
Monique gonna take you to HR.
Guys, thank you so much for being here and sticking around to the end. Be sure you've liked this video and be sure you come back and leave a comment just to help us get out in the algorithm. We're doing great things. We got a lot of interviews coming up next week Monday. We have Queen's Court at 9 p.m. We have Matt coming on, who was one of the finalists of Nivea. And then we also have on Tuesday, tell them who we have on Tuesday coming in for an interview.
Tuesday, we got the great-looking Mark Anthony coming from Ready to Love Miami. He's going to visit us Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So we know you want to be there for that.
Yeah, I know that's right. And we got one more. I'm not going to drop any names, but we got one lady that may be coming in from Ready to Love also. We're trying to get her. We're working hard to get her, secure her. And we're going to be bringing back, one of the things we're going to do in the next coming weeks, we're going to bring back some people that have interviewed with us, and we're bringing them back for a part 2. So I think you're going to really enjoy that. Oh, Monique says her boo. Mark Anthony is her boo.
There
I
we
didn't
go.
know it was like that. But say goodbye, Alex, as we slide on out of here, okay?
All right. Thanks, guys, for listening. Love y'all. Keep supporting, and we out.
We're out.